Hello, I'm Amelia. I'm 20 and I have type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed just under 2 years ago, and since then I've been documenting my journey with diabetes on Instagram and on TikTok. I've actually been wanting to film some stuff for YouTube for a while, but just haven't really had the time or haven't kind of found the right things to talk about. But I recently wrote a blog post about my experience of flying with type 1 diabetes for the first time, and a lot of people said how useful that was, and it was something that I spent ages looking for. Before I did the flight, I was looking for advice online, on YouTube, blogs, podcasts, everywhere, and actually really struggled to find anything. So I've written my blog post about it, which I will link in the description, but I also thought that I would come on here and kind of explain my experience of flying with type 1 diabetes in case anybody is, anxious or nervous about doing their first flight with diabetes, or if you're just interested to see how it's different, or if you've got friends or family with type 1 diabetes and you want to know how you can help them when they're flying or travelling like this. I do have my notes on my iPad in front of me, so if I keep looking down, that is why. I just don't want to miss anything out. So just as a little bit of context, I flew from Stansted in London to Vienna. I was travelling with my dad, so I wasn't travelling alone. He had actually paid for fast track and priority boarding, so I didn't have to worry about not having those. And also in terms of luggage, because I've moved for quite a considerable amount of time, I had 2 check-in suitcases and 1 carry-on suitcase and my normal carry-on bag. I basically filled my 2 carry-on bags, so the rucksack and my small suitcase, with diabetes supplies. That was almost everything that I had with me in the carry-on. Obviously a few other essentials, and then everything else was in my check-in suitcases, just because I didn't want to risk putting any of my diabetes supplies in the hold. Now that I've given you a little bit of context for it, so basically my flight was really early in the morning, so I actually went down to Stansted the night before. We stayed in a hotel right next to the airport, and I actually emailed them a couple of weeks before we went down, just before we booked it actually, to check whether there were fridges in the room and whether there was a freezer that I would be able to put my ice packs in so that I could keep my insulin cool the following day on the flight. They were really great, and they said all the rooms have fridges in and that there was a freezer at the reception that would be open 24 hours, so if I just went down and gave them the things that needed to go in, they'd give me a receipt or something. So basically that's how it worked. They told me exactly where it was in the freezer, so that then when I went back the following morning, the people who were then working could find it for me. So that really reassured me, knowing that in advance. If you are flying from Stansted, message me and I can tell you which hotel it was. We'll need to actually find it, I can't remember the name. But that was really reassuring. So then, because the flight was so early, so I think the flight was 7 a.m, I had to get up really early. So what I actually did was, I normally take my basal insulin when I wake up, but obviously normally I'm waking up at maybe 8, 9, 10, whereas I was waking up at 4, I think, 3 or 4. So I couldn't really take it then. So I set myself a reminder on my phone to remember to take my basal later. So I actually ended up taking it when I arrived in Vienna, because that was kind of how the timing worked out. I wasn't particularly hungry when I woke up, so I didn't eat much, but I had taken a couple of low carb snacks with me, so I had those just so that I wasn't really hungry while going through security and everything like that. So then we caught the shuttle bus to the airport terminal. We did this about 3 hours before the flight. The bag drop off was already open, so we did that straight away. I actually had to go and do it with the person at the desk, because my stuff had been marked with medical condition, because I'd emailed to ask for an extra bag to put diabetes supplies in. I actually didn't end up using the extra bag that they said I could have, but it still came up as a note on my thing, so they wouldn't let me do it with the self-check-in, but it was fine, it was all done really quickly. So then after that we just went straight through security. As I said before, my dad had already paid for fast track, so that was really good. It was really quiet, really empty, and that meant I had plenty of time and space to explain my diabetes to them and to tell them that my sensors couldn't go through the x-rays, They were really lovely and understanding with it, and they basically just gave me a tray to put all of my sensors in so that they could like take them a different way to check them. They also told me that I didn't have to go through the normal like scanner thing, and they sent me through a different one instead, and that seemed to work. My sensor was still working absolutely fine after, so it was nice just to have a little bit more space and time to explain it to them. But yeah, they were all really understanding, like all the members of staff who I spoke to. Because I didn't have my phone on me while we were going through security, I did not realise that my blood sugars were dropping quite quickly, so I ended up having a hypo straight after we'd been through security, which was a bit of a pain, but it was fine. I had a juice box with me, like they hadn't taken it off of me through security, so I had that, and then I was absolutely fine. At that point, obviously we were into like the duty-free zone, so I bought some Lucozade and another bottle of juice, I think, and plenty of water. For the flight, I did already have like Haribos and sweets and stuff and gels with me, but I just wanted to make sure that I had plenty of hypo treats in case something happened on the plane. So yeah, I bought those, and then we actually still had ages to wait, so I went and got myself some breakfast from Cafe Nero. That was nice. Also just like had time to wander around the shops, bought an adapter. Then after a long time of waiting, it was time to find our gate and board the plane. It was a little bit stressful because there was quite a last minute gate change, but obviously everyone was in the same situation and it was all sorted and it was absolutely fine. We got there quite early so that we would be near the front to board, and yeah, we were on the plane and that was kind of it. I feel like that was the majority of the stress over. My sugars were actually really good on the flight. I'm not quite sure how, but often when I'm travelling my sugars end up being quite good. They're quite stable. So I didn't end up having to use any of the hypo treats or do any injections or anything like that. As I said before, I then did my basal injection when I arrived at Vienna airport. We picked up the suitcases from the luggage belt, and then that was it, and we just like carried on with our day. I did have my sunflower lanyard with me, but I didn't end up wearing it. I guess that might be more helpful if like you don't pay for fast track security or something like that. But I did see quite a few people around the airport wearing them, so they would like definitely a recognised thing, and yeah, like it wouldn't stand out too much if that's like something you're worried about. Yeah, I think overall actually the experience of flying with diabetes was much less stressful than I was anticipating. I think the fact that it was like an early flight, so I guess the airport wasn't super busy, that helped a bit. Having fast track security and priority boarding was really helpful, and I was really like grateful to have that. And yeah, I basically used my liquid allowance in my carry-on to pack my glucose gels because the rest of my liquids were in my check-in suitcase. So that was kind of what I did with that, just to make sure that I had some gels with me. But yeah, overall I would just say, like, if you have everything prepared and organised a few days or weeks in advance, and you know exactly what you're going to do like the night before, how you're transporting your insulin, things like that. I took mine in Frio pouches and then like cool bag type things with the freezer pouches in. I feel like if you have it organised a few days before, then it most likely will not be as stressful as you think it will be. And just, yeah, like try not to panic yourself and try not to get yourself kind of worked up, and just take the time to explain to your members of staff about diabetes and about why you can't do like certain things, like the sensors not being able to go through the X-ray scanners and things like that. Just take your time and explain it calmly, and hopefully you will have a good experience with it. So yeah, that's it. Thank you, and I will try and post another video soon. Bye!